Yes, it is.
All right. Good evening, everyone. We will start our Raymore City Council work session for May 5th, 2025. We have only one thing on the agenda tonight. That's provision of city sanitary sewer services outside of city limits. So, Mr. Fairborn.
Thank you. As most of the council is aware, sewer issues are incredibly complex, and they lead to, the trickle down from them leads to a whole lot of other issues. And in this case, one of the things we want to talk with the council about tonight is recently we have had a number of different requests coming to us, both formally, informally, kind of exploratory in some cases, on provision of city sanitary sewer in locations that are not contiguous to the city out in the county, but they could be on our particular sewer system. I'm going to kind of go into some of the overviews on that as well, and then could lead to a couple of other conversations that we haven't had with the council for some time relative to annexation of these properties, et cetera. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gress to give the overview and the presentation.
Thank you, sir. As Mr. Fairborn mentioned, a lot of conversations recently on sewer, both in city and outside of the city. As the council knows, the city maintains a very significant sewer infrastructure system in the city. And then on the map that I've provided up here, from what you can see, would be our main Alexander Creek interceptor sewer, which actually kind of starts over here towards 58 and then leads all the way out of the city of Raymore. In addition to that, there is also this trunk line that extends from the Alexander Creek sewer down towards the Rapex School campus. That was installed back in 2009 when the school located there and was constructed. We'll cover some more of the details with respect to that line here in just a moment. And so kind of a snapshot of where our sewer system leaves the city limits. We still obviously carry our waste outside of the city via that network. In 2019, the council may remember we adopted a new intent to annex map, which essentially outlines what the city's intended future boundaries would be as we continue to grow. So we adopted that in 2009, and as you can see here, the overarching red boundary is essentially what the council at that time was desiring for our future boundaries to be. In addition to this, we have a series of maps that kind of show different scenarios for how and when and to what extent we would be trying to annex certain portions of these. As Mr. Fairborn mentioned, land has to be contiguous to the city in order for us to annex it involuntarily and voluntarily. Since this map has been adopted, we have annexed a few properties that were once in the county and now are in the city. And so again, there's a couple different scenarios, either through involuntary annexation that we would study different areas to try and square up different boundaries or bring property into the city as property owners or developers were to request to establish our growth outside of our current pattern here. What we wanted to talk about this evening was specific to sewer in the area that you see kind of outlined in red, and or outside of that if the council wishes to go beyond that scope. As Mr. Fairborn mentioned, we have had a number of questions recently about properties in which that large sewer crosses. And so in lieu of folks who are building homes out in the county, constructing septic systems on site, they're kind of poking around at the opportunity to connect to the city sewer system on their properties. Did a little bit of research staff has done. We do have a bit of a precedent for providing sewer service outside of city limits, not necessarily in this area, but in the Dutchman Acres subdivision, which is, as you know, this little pocket of the area right there. There are currently 64 lots in Dutchman Acres, and we provide sewer service to 9 of those. Those agreements date back to the 1980s and 1990s. A few of those that I have found deal specifically with residents who had septic systems at one point those systems failed at some point in their life, and instead of reconstructing the septic system, they worked with the city to connect to our sewer system and extend the appropriate infrastructure to their properties. And so, as I mentioned, out of those 64 properties, we currently provide service to 9 of those. Relative to the fee structure, residents that are, or I'm sorry, properties that are outside the city limits within our fee schedule, you will see here, I just took a small snapshot of it. We do have an established rate for properties that are outside the city limits, so they pay 125% of what the applicable rate is inside the city. The in-city rate would be $9.32 per 1,000 gallons. $11.65 per 1,000 gallons would be what a person outside of the city limits would pay. To the city.
They're paying the county and all this stuff. Do you know what their rate is?
So if they are not hooked up to the city system, they would be on a private septic system. So it is on. They don't really pay anything to the county other than the permit fee. So it's just a maintenance cost that a resident would pay. Correct. Good question. In addition to the fee schedule, I'll jump back to a brief map here. In 2009, as I mentioned, the school district constructed this trunk line to serve the school district property. At the time, the city and the school district entered into an advanced reimbursement or advanced funding agreement, which basically provided for a structure for reimbursement to the school district. They provided the cost of that sewer infrastructure on the front end with the expectation that as properties would develop and seek connection to that specific main, that there's a formula in place for the areas in which are being sewered or requesting to be sewered that is calculated, and that payment is due to the school district. Think of it similar to a waterfall effect. The school district established the sewer. Property 1 wants to attach to the sewer, they pay the school district. Property B wants to attach, they pay property A and the school district. So it kind of provides for reimbursement for all of the properties over time that were to connect to that sewer. So a little bit of the direction and discussion that we would like to have with the council. The agreements that we have found and kind of reviewing those of the properties that have attached to the city's sewer system, as I mentioned, they date back to the 1980s, 1990s, so a different council at the time, different things that council was probably looking towards in terms of growth. So really looking for some feedback from the council on how you all or what interest you might have in those coming forward. If there are specific terms of the agreement that the council would like staff to consider as we're having those conversations. As I mentioned, our intent to annex area, as it's shown here, one of the things that has been in a couple of those agreements as we found them is that by connecting to the sewer system through this process, that property owner would waive their right to protest annexation at a future date. If and when the city were to become contiguous to their property, you're requesting the services of the city, and so as I mentioned, a few of those agreements have had those provisions in them. Primarily in Dutchman Acres. We haven't annexed much or at all in Dutchman Acres, and so none of those properties have become eligible to be annexed, but at such time that they do, we will have the provision in place to continue to expand that boundary. So that concludes my staff report. If there are any specific questions, happy to answer those.
Any questions, Tom?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I know when we've talked over the years, and when we look at the annexation, I know we have discussed primary to 58 to 291 at Strip, and the stuff to the south and to the north wasn't a primary for us. But we had notified Lee Summit in the past that we would look into that in the future possibly, but we were primary wanting to work that section of 58 to 291. Now, so when you talk about extending the sewers and going out there, is that a primary area, or you're not going to be extending any farther in there, just doing that one area?
No, good question. As I mentioned, there's 4 different annexation areas that we have set aside for a plan, if you will. We talked a little bit last week. It was a combination of areas that we thought would be supportive of involuntary annexation coming into the city. We've had a lot of conversations with probably 4 or 5 properties that are out towards the school district property there at 58 and 291, who have basically said, when the city gets to us, we will be more than happy and ready to come into the city. The primary focus would be down the 58 highway corridor as the first step.
Mr. Gress, do you have the colored map?
I do not. I did not have that one up here.
Mr. Mills?
How does this impact, if any, where we had the meeting with Little Blue Valley Sewer District and the issue of the bonds and how we're going to be charged for the new way of being charged with the actual flow and all that kind of stuff. Will this have any negative impact, or will it be a positive impact, or is it a neutral impact if we do something like this?
What we're going to be paying as far as the new fee after we come off of the per connection fee. The new fee will be based on volume, and the higher volume entities that are going to be contributing to that, it's going to be better for them. One of the things that we've kind of discussed with the council is we have really focused the last couple of years our I&I out there, knowing that this type of expansion might be, is going to be where we end up going, whether it's with or without annexation coming in. It's just going to be, in this case, people who are wanting to hook up. I see it as being a good thing for us cost-wise to Little Blue or to Middle Big Creek. I see it as overall, overarching, when you look at what we're charging our customers, because that amount's actually going to go down per customer for us over time. That'll be a good thing ultimately for, as a whole, for all of us, but that's going to be a ways off before we see that impact. What we have right now before us, though, is, as Mr. Gress had indicated, it is anybody that is going to be hooking onto that Alexander Creek trunk. It is an incredibly complex formula that is used as far as the payback is concerned. It's total area that's going to be served. The initial people who called us on that, it's twofold. It's the Alexander Creek thing, and then there's these individual properties that are wanting to come in. From the Alexander Creek standpoint, the initial property A that had called us, I think it was $238,000.
233.
233 that they'd be paying to the school district. Now, eventually, when property C would come in, then they'd be paying property A back for a portion, school district for a portion. But in the beginning here, the school district continues to sit on a very, very high bill that they had to pay to do that upsize and get themselves connected, but it's where they wanted the schools, so they have to pay that price. I guess when Mr. Gress indicates direction from the council, when we're talking about the Dutchman Acres agreements, there are some of those properties that came in where it appeared to be administrative, that they came in. The council was probably informed. There are some of those properties that had an agreement with the council that didn't look like this agreement with the council. We've had other properties want to come in. Now we have these new requests. I guess one of the things we're looking for from the council is overarching. Do you want us to be allowed to be entertaining these and bringing them to you just like we would a voluntary annexation, but it's not? And would the council like to see, both for situations like going backwards with Dutchman Acres, same as we did with water on Kentucky, would the council like to see a tighter ship with that as far as forms that they have to fill out, agreements that they have to do? We have some people out there with no agreement that if we end up getting into there like in Dutchman Acres, there's no agreement that they wouldn't fight us going into Dutchman Acres. Some of the properties have that, some of them don't. So we're providing sewer service to somebody who could end up being against us on an annexation in there, an involuntary annexation. And we couldn't do anything to stop that. Excuse me?
Acres is not in our. Dutchman Acres right now is not in our.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right. I'm saying if the council were ever to decide, you know what, we want to try an involuntary annexation in there, some of those people couldn't fight it. Some of those people would actually be able to fight that. So we have a very inconsistent method out there. We have really nothing in the code that would address, I mean, it's limited.
It's actually somewhat vague. It does really just establish that the council has the authority to authorize the connections at their discretion, which is really the discussion we've had, is what discretion would the council like and how would they like staff to proceed forward with those?
I have just a couple of questions. Is it cumbersome for the city to allow these connections, or do you feel like it's worthwhile? Like it gives us, as long as we have the agreement, it gives us that stake to say that they can't protest annexation. I see that would be beneficial. And then my other question, other than the inconsistency in the contracts or in the agreements, do we feel like what we're doing currently is working? Are there any recommended changes from staff? And then, yeah.
To answer your first question, as far as being cumbersome, it would still be a private sanitary sewer line. It would still be maintained by the resident, so it would have no impact on us. We have the capacity to serve them, so it wouldn't impact Public Works.
Similar to the water agreement that the council saw here recently for Kentucky, it would be up to the applicant's expense to construct the connection and pay for all of the services that would have to be made to connect to the sewer. Mr. Salisbury and his team would obviously inspect that, but once they're hooked up, it really just becomes another customer to the city through the billing. But the upfront cost would be totally at the applicant's expense.
And as far as, is what we are doing working, it comes at us infrequently, a request, but, and so because it comes at us infrequently, I feel like it's almost like the day it hits us and who's sitting in what chair, the way we're responding to it, and I don't think that's a good idea from a liability standpoint from the council, especially with as big a deal as sanitary sewer is. Honestly, we would like the council to give us direction to come back with you all with forms that have to be filled out, changes to code. Is it code or UDC that would have to be changed?
It would be the city code.
Okay. Changes to code, and we would like the change to code to absolutely memorialize that they cannot protest annexation if they're coming in. It's too big a deal.
Yeah, it seems to make sense to make it consistent. Do you have a question?
Not sure.
Okay, Mr. Mills?
Again, I just agree to that. I mean, personally, I think anytime we extend city services to anyone outside the city, whether they're in our intent to annex or not, we should have that clause, have a written agreement that they cannot or will not fight annexation. I mean, I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. It's interesting, compared to water, the water was rare. People are really desperate when they want to get sanitary sewer, and so they are by nature acknowledging the fact that they need the city to provide a service for them. So let's get them while we got them, I suppose. Kind of a.
Any other questions, comments? Jay?
Are you just looking for consensus tonight or more
Just
specific?
if the council wanted to take a, it's well enough alone type of an attitude, then I didn't want to sick these guys on, because these formulas can be very, very complicated. But I didn't want to sick them on a wholesale code change, et cetera, without council approval on that to move forward.
Seems to make sense to make it consistent, and I don't know, how hard do you think it will be to go back and make the old ones align with a new plan?
I don't think you could go back.
You know what? I didn't think we were going to be able to go back on the water one, but it's actually, they've actually been, it hasn't been as tedious a process as I thought it was going to be. So maybe Dutchman Acres might be a little bit different because we have a kind of an odd relationship with those folks in there, but you just never know.
There could be an argument made that you don't necessarily even need those agreements. You could probably have, I mean, worthy of further evaluation and research is what I would say. But the potential of changing your code and incorporating the language within the terms of the code may cover you. The agreements would be nice.
I think if you got them where they want us greater than we need them. So take advantage of what you got, because they don't usually come around to that idea for us, the city, so.
Mr. Salisbury, do you have any, just ballpark, nobody's going to hold you to it, somebody's septic or laterals go out, what would a cost be to replace a lateral field or a septic system?
It obviously depends on the site, but I know it's tens of thousands usually to install them, so I'm assuming full replacement would be equally expensive.
That's what I was gonna say. My parents had theirs redone when they moved.
Even back when I was county commissioner, they were 15 and 20,000.
Go ahead.
Didn't we years back, when the Harold Estates, we had it back, we did your sewer stuff years back, kind of went the same way over there in Harold?
We didn't have a septic system. We had a lift station to assist. And we finally came to an agreement with the city. We attached to the main, and then Harold Estates paid back a portion or the cost to make the attachment over time through our water bills. I think a 5-year period, which it's complete now.
Yep, everybody ended up paying.
Very good. You have what you need?
Got what we need.
Okay. Next up, other. Do we have any other?
I have no other, but based on an email that we received late Saturday evening, if I could ask the council to go into executive session, a motion for executive session for 610-0212.
Very good. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we move into executive session to discuss, which was this?
Real estate.
Thank you. Real estate acquisition matters is authorized by revised state statute, state of Missouri 610.021, subsection 2.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to enter into executive session to discuss real estate matters. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
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 One more time, roll call, please.
Prepare. Councilmember Mills,
Yes.
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Circo,
Yes.
Councilmember Abdelgawad,
Yes.
Councilmember Burke,
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert,
Yes.
Councilmember Holman.
Yes.
Very good. We will enter into